Good morning. Welcome back to the dojo. It is Monday morning. That means we're going to be spending 30 to 45 minutes over the next while. Good man, Kish lays in. We're going to be spending 30 to 45 minutes focusing on only getting your first investor check. That's it. That's all today is about. Today is about getting you ready so that you are positioned to be able to get that first check in. Okay? Nothing else. And so I want questions. I want lots of questions. I want people, because the funny thing about getting your first check in is it doesn't matter where you are. I know we get a lot of folks here from India who join the live stream. And the thing about like a ton of the questions that we get from India are exactly the same as the questions we get from the US, but there's no difference, right? There's 85,000 millionaires in India. That's a lot of millionaires. And my guess is that's growing faster than it is in any other place in the world. But in the United States, there are wealthier people and more of them. And there have been more millionaires for a long time. In other places like the United Kingdom, you got plenty of money over there as well. Dubai, you have fewer wealthy people, but the wealthiness is very, very high. So here's my point to this whole thing is that when you are building a company, the problem is not that there's nobody to fund that company. The problem is what's the most efficient way to be able to reach out and engage with people in the best way possible to be able to actually make sure that you're successful in the company that you have. Like, that's all. That's what you want to do. Other than that, it's about then building the company and making sure that you're in a really good place. So there are parts of let's call it a tree, right? There are parts of the tree that are different activities that you do. There are the roots of the tree, and the roots of the tree is the network that you're building out. The trunk of the tree is the system that you have to be able to engage with that network. And then the branches is how you're engaging with people. Now, what does this signify? Well, let's start with the branches. Lots of different branches. It's not one branch that goes up where you have the same email sequence to all of your investors. Or you don't do any email sequence and you wait for them to follow you. The branches signify that different relationships get built with different people. I just had a call a few moments ago with an investor who's down in Colombia, a great investor in the dojo, somebody we've been very engaged with for an awful long time. And in this moment, this particular investor is going through a very spiritual part of their investment journey, right? I have other investors who only care about the money. They don't care about anything else except making sure that they have money to be able to get to tomorrow and the next day. I have other investors who want to be the most famous investors in the entire world. It just depends where all these people are on their spiritual journey, are on their journey, on their investment journey. And so you cannot treat them all the same. Now, this means, moving down to the trunk, you have to have a very strong customer relationship management system. I don't mind what you use. I have a bespoke one that I really like, Pulse. Other people use Notion. Other people will use Salesforce or Zoho or tons of other systems that are out there. The most important thing, though, is that you have a great system to be able to maintain and manage the investors that you have. But let's actually, rather than starting on the tree, let's start on the end, right? Which is the end point of what you want to achieve. Which, let's continue with this analogy and say that the end point of what you want to achieve is the forest. I think I may have stolen this tree analogy from Ash, actually, from a week or two. But I like where it goes to, right? So let's look at the forest as the end analogy. And the end analogy is, how many investors do I need to have, and how well nutritioned do these investors need to be, i.e., how strong are the trees that got grown into that forest? If the forest has got 1,000 trees, well, that's how many investors that you need to have to make sure that you can achieve the investment goals you have. And you may say, well, how do you work out those endpoint goals, Brian? Well, it's because, let's say you're raising $1 million. And let's say that you live in a place that you're not a highly exited entrepreneur who lives in Silicon Valley where every check is $2 or $3 million. Let's say you live in Idaho, and your average check are in Bangalore, and your average check is going to be $50,000 or $100,000, but you need to raise $1 million or 1.2. And so on average, even though some people will invest $300,000 checks, other people will invest $25,000 checks. So the average check size is going to sit, around that level. That means that you need 12 check writers. And so if you need 12 check writers, you then say, fine, how many relationships do I need to have with how many investors to get me to 12 check writers? And that becomes the entire goal. And then every minute of every day just becomes around working the ratios. That's it, right? If you know that your conversion ratio from outreach to meeting is 1 in 20, well, then you know that you need 20 for every one. If your conversion ratio for every meeting to every sale is 1 in 10, or let's even say 1 in 100, then you know that you need to have a database of 2,000 investors. If it was 1 in 10, which was outreach to outreach to meeting, and then 1 in, let's say 1 in 100 outreach to meeting, and then 1 in 10 meeting to sale, because you're very good at closing once you get those investors started, then you need 2,000 investors in your database. But if you say, Brian, those ratios are crazy, I can get like 10% of the people I outreach to engage with me so I can make a presentation. Wonderful. You only need 200 investors in your forest. But you have to start with those numbers. And then you have to say, okay, now that I know the size of my forest as a startup looking to get investors through, then you back it into, wonderful. How do I engage with all of those individual 200 investors that I have? This, my friends, is how you get your first check. It's no different. Some people will have incredible product fits, in which case your ratios, your conversion ratios, will be much better. Other people, maybe you're earlier in the process, maybe the product fit is more dubious. It's more difficult for people to be able to tell how perfect that your product is going to be. That's okay, right? That's fine. But you just have going to have less attractive conversion ratios, either from outbound to meeting or from meeting to sale. Maybe in your case, if you're very early, you haven't done it much before, not many people know the sector that you're in. Maybe you're on a conversion from oil to water and then into a process system which will allow oil to become more energy efficient. Well, you might need to do a lot of investors, or you may decide to go the opposite way and say, there's no way on God's green earth I'm going to be able to convince investors who know nothing about energy that they should invest in my company. So I'm only going to focus on people who are in my direct space. Okay. But you get the general idea. The general idea is, before we get into tactics of like how, and I do want to encourage, let's see what we got here. We always have a bunch of great questions coming through. So I do want to challenge everybody to hit me with questions, because this is your session. These 20, 25, 30, 40 minutes that I give you every single Monday is about you. It's not really for me. I'm just here because I want to make sure that I serve the startup community in the areas that you need to know about. So put your questions in chat. Let me answer your questions. I'm very happy to do it. But while you're working on that and you're thinking of your questions, 2 parts. The first part is, what do the numbers look like? Now you know. You're going to work out your numbers based on your conversion to get through to the meeting, conversion to get through to the sale. How many investors do I need to have in my pipeline, in my community? Then we know our number. And once we have our number, we have to keep it there. As investors start to die, you need to add more investors in there. It's not a one-time thing. It's like saying, how do I give love? Well, you don't give it for one moment. You continually are giving love over a long period of time. So as the world changes, as your world changes, you're continually adding to that funnel to make sure that it's getting stronger and stronger. Exactly the same in early stage startup for investors. You have your numbers for investors, but you also know as those investors die, they may come back, but they're less alive for the moment. So you need to continually be refilling the funnel on the other end. Now, got the funnel, We know that we got the branches, which means we're reaching out to different people in different ways. We know that within our customer relationship management system, we are managing that by putting future follow-ups, which are directly tied into how these folks needs to be followed up with. I have one investor who I met with on Friday, who I know will take a little bit of time. For this investor, it might even take 5 years. I don't even know if the direct value is going to come from this investor or from one of this investor's friends. So my way of building with this person is always going to be, and I also have a lot of love for this person as well. So it's always going to be, we'll meet for a dinner, we'll meet for lunch, we'll work with one of our companies, and then it will build and our relationship will become stronger and trust will be built. Because for this investor, without trust, there is absolutely nothing. I have other investors that all they want to hear about is successes in Expert Dojo. That's all they care about. So I'm sharing successes that we're having continually. For all of our investors, we add them all into our newsletter. Why do we do that? Because we want them to see what's happening on a regular basis with Expert Dojo so that they can see that we have that lined up. All of these things are important, right? If we have all of these nailed down, we're okay. But remember, with all of your investors, you have to be managing them differently. Now, you may be able to put 10 people in this funnel. They're just the people who wanted to see you be a little bit later. You may be able to put 5 people in this funnel. They're the people who want to get to know you, want to be your friend, want to talk with you, want to hear what you're thinking. You put them in this funnel. You have other people who maybe want to go on the journey a little bit with you. Maybe they want to be a part of your team. Maybe they want to be a part of like the great change that you're bringing. Again, all kinds of opportunities that you can do. So you want to make sure you break them down into their individual segments. And then your communication has to be pristine with these people. Now, I'll get to communication in a second. Before, I would like to bring up a comment here from Shashikant, who said, how important is storytelling versus data in early stage pitches? Now, this is a question that changes with the ages. If you had said to me in 2021, how important is storytelling in raising investment? I'd be like, it's everything. There's literally nothing more important that you're going to do in the whole world other than storytelling. If you say it to me today, I'm like, kind of, it's okay. I think you should still have the story, but the data is ever important. Like right now, people are so afraid. We're in times of fear. It's like talking about like how important is conversation around dinner when we're in the middle of a depression, and how important is conversation around dinner when we're in really good times. In really good times, everybody wants to talk. We want family, we want friends, we want people around the table. When we're in a time of depression, we're worried about where is the next meal going to come from. So do we want to have conversation? Oh, yes, we do. But do we want to know the next meal is already lined up? Oh, yes, we do. More. Okay. And so everything for me is about how do we get to, oh, yes, we do more. Lead with the data. If you have an amazing team, slide 2, tell us about that team. If you have incredible traction, one of our companies is growing at thousands of % per year. Really, you can have a 2-slide deck right now. Just tell us about the thousands of % you're going for. You got to speak to the bottom line. People are in a stage of fear. And remember, right now you're competing against other early stage startups in your sector, other early stage startups who are outside your sector. You're also competing with gold. You're competing with Bitcoin. Look at the prices that are increasing on Bitcoin. And all of these things are important because in early stage startup, it's incredibly high risk, but the IRR, i.e. the returns that an investor gets, they consider around 20, 25, 30, 40%, right? You're very lucky, you can get hundreds of %. You're very unlucky, you can get 0. The middle is somewhere between 20. And people would even argue this with me. They might even say, Brian, the IRR for an average early stage investor could be as low as 10, 12%, right? When you allow for all of the losses that you have in there as well. You just have to show people how they're going to get their money back. That's my big message to you today, is there are more people in the world with money than there have ever been before. I personally think most of those people have worked harder for their money than people have ever had to work for them before, and they do not want to give it up easily. And so if you're in a place where you're like, man, I got this story, we're going to change the future of the way people look at data and integrate it into a mindset that will allow people to get greater insights so that companies can do better. Investors are like, cool. But like, how do I make money from that? Like, how do I make money from you? Like, what is it that you have that's better than everybody else out there? Like, what is that insight that you've seen, that you've realized, that you've embraced, that you've executed, that nobody else is able to do? That's where it gets super interesting. So lead with the numbers, go real hard on the numbers, then let people feel what you do. So like, let me give you one wonderful example. We're opening up in India, as everybody knows. And we're really looking forward to building our fund there. And we've already invested in 33 companies in India. And I think we're sitting on a crazy high IRR, and our companies are sitting on a crazy high outcome for what they've achieved. And so nothing could make me happier. And so because of that, a lot of family offices are approaching us. And I had a wonderful conversation with the family office on Friday. And that family office were talking about the fact that they were one of the last noble families in India. And for lots of reasons, that if you're Indian, you know the history of what happened with noble families. And for years and years and years, they fed 10,000 people in their village every single month. And they want to restart that again. And what they wanted to do was bring the dojo over, have a dojo put in place, make sure that the dojo was successful. They don't want to lose money out of the dojo, but then based on successful exits, they then want to be able to help build entrepreneurship into the village so they don't have to continually feed people forever, right? People can start to feed themselves. Now, if I led with that, it's a nonprofit. No investor cares about a nonprofit unless they're giving money to a nonprofit. But by leading with the returns that Expert Dojo get through incredible investments in our founders, they love the mission and the alignment. But then we're like, hey, you know what? We love what you're doing with feeding people. We would love to be a part of that. As we continue to grow and make a ton of money, we can only spend so much of it. So why would we not share that amongst other people? So don't forget the story. I'm Irish. We are based on storytelling. That's all we know how to do. But don't lead just with the story. Lead with the financial return. Show why you are better placed to get a better financial return than anybody else. And then layer in on the back end. Once they're emotionally bought into you and their logic has followed on, then you layer in by saying, by the way, this is the story of where it all comes from. But don't spend like 4 hours telling them about your mom, your dad, your family, your everything else. Okay, platforms or community can help me reach early stage investors. There are, like, you could go onto AngelList, and there's like a list of all of the investors. Very easy. Take their names, cross-check them on LinkedIn. You can do a LinkedIn search and just do investor. And you'll find tons of investors who come up. Even if you did a Google search that said like venture capitalists in Mumbai, or venture capitalists in San Francisco, like there's such availability these days. It's crazy. I'm even seeing, even if you just like Google family offices, you can see family offices. Look, it's very easy to find. My favorite tool is still LinkedIn. I find LinkedIn is a very, very, very easy tool to navigate. And by just connecting with people, it just puts you into a place. As long as you have a system and a machine that's going, it puts you into a place where you're in a very strong place to be able to connect with folks. There are also now a ton of platforms out there which are connect with investor platforms. And they're okay. They're fine. I don't wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh my gosh, these are the most incredible people in the world. Because it's just such availability of this same data. You can tell. Like, you go to Crunchbase. Look in Crunchbase. You'll be able to tell every person who's invested, or most of them at least, that have invested in every decent deal. Okay, so you have all of this here. So if you have it all here, make it work. Make it work for you. Just go after those platforms. And communities. So community is a funny word. I'm going through a little bit of a weird moment with communities. We, at the dojo, we started so strongly with communities. We did nothing else but build communities in the dojo. But you have to be very, very, very careful that you're not spending all of your time with people who are equally poor as you. Because all that happens is you don't build your network. And I don't mean later, like once you get a Series A or Series B, knock yourself out. You're already famous. People already know you. The people who need to be engaged are already engaged. You're fine. I'm not talking about your friends. You shouldn't change your friends just because you're doing really well. What I'm talking about is as you're building your startup, your 6 degrees of influence has got to rise with you. You have to be continually reaching out to bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and people. That's your job. They have to know you. If they don't know you, how the heck do you think you're going to build a $1 billion company? You can only do that by building the people who are around you. Okay? But I like it. I like the question. It's good. La, 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 la. Okay. Solid follow-up strategy look like after an investor call. First of all, if you followed up, and I don't mean like the very next call after it, because the very next call after it is easy peasy. Everybody gets that right. It's like, yo, we met. What do you think? Here's what happens. You have your meeting, meet with the VC or the angel, whoever it is. Then you call them afterwards, and then everybody's the same. Everybody's fine. I would say it's 99% of people will follow up after they have a meeting with an investor to see what the investor thought. And then the investor goes one of two ways. Either number one, they're like, we really like you. And again, 99% of people are very, very, very good at that. Right? They'll be like, okay, you liked us. What do you need? You want access to the data room? No problem. We'll give you access to the data room. You want to have the physical piece of the deck? No problem. We'll give that. And even the next follow-up, most people are very, very good at. I mean, the next one, most people are very, very good at because you have somebody on the chain. Like you got them. You know that you're not going to let them escape because they're there. And because also you don't have that many investors that you need to go after, that you got to worry about 1 or 2 or 3 that you might forget about. Now, here's where the problem comes in. Most investors don't finish the first investor call and say, that was awesome. You are awesome. I want to invest in you. Most investors say either nothing, or, and then they ghost you, or because they don't want to upset you and they don't know how to tell you no, and it just feels really weird, and they're just like, oh, what if I just leave them alone? So right or wrong, that's what happens, right? Or they'll say to you, you're not for me. They'll either say it in a very abrupt way or they'll say it in the future. But I want to paint a picture of you of somebody buying a Ferrari. Now, I'm not a Ferrari guy. If you came to me and you said, Brian, I have got a limited edition Ferrari. It is incredible. It is like got a specific color, specific area. It's never been used before. Normally the price is $300,000 and I am going to give this to you for $250,000. I would be a no on that. But if you then came back to me and said $200,000, me personally, I'd still be a no. 150, still a no. 100, still a no. But I'm not allowed to resell it, okay? So don't get silly on me, okay? But like 50, Brian, you can have a $250,000 Ferrari for $50,000. Not for resale, you have to use it. Maybe. 25, almost definitely, right? And so what I'm saying is this. Investors don't mean anything because you're like a rapidly moving fireball. You're either going to go up here or you're going to go down here. Where most startups struggle with is maintaining contact, smart contact with investors who are not an immediate yes. And that's where you have to build your platform around. That's what you have to build your systems around. And they're the people you have to follow up with. And so now you might say, okay, Brian, I get that. I should. We put them into a list, right? Yes. We then email that list or text that list or call that list on a regular basis. Yes. If I email them, should I send them out updates? Never a bad idea. Let them have their updates. But let's talk about what those updates look like. And again, this is a very personal view. Others of you may feel that I'm wrong, in which case, please do what you feel is best. But I just want you to be intentional about it. Me personally, I hate long updates. I hate them because you're going to make me read like 4 pages or 3 pages from a company I haven't invested in. If it's a company I've invested in, love long updates. If it's a company that I have not invested in, make it simple. Like, what do I care about? I care about that you raise money. I care about that your revenue growth. and I care about new customers, maybe somebody incredible joining the team. Richard Branson just joined our advisorship team. Awesome. I just call them the wows. Like, I just want to see 1 or 2 paragraphs of wows. Make me feel like I should be joining. Make me feel like I'm missing out on something. That's your job in these updates. That's where you have to follow up. And you have to follow up on a continuous basis. It's not just one update. You also have to put follow-ups in there as well. If you have 200 investors that are in your pipeline, those 200 investors all have to have at least mini group follow-ups. And I would even suggest for the ones that you know actually have money, they should be getting individual follow-ups as well, like an email individually written by you, not by ChatGPT, not in an email sequence, but by you. Hey, Brian, we spoke a week ago. I haven't got any, sorry, we spoke a week, probably be too short. We spoke a month ago. I just want you to know, I know you were worried about our growth, and we both know that 200% growth every single year equals a guaranteed unicorn. Well, we just got on trajectory for 200% growth. I know that you want to get on this unicorn as soon as you're comfortable that we're there. So let me know if you want to have a conversation today or tomorrow or this week. Or if not, I let you know as we stay on trajectory, because I want to get you in. That's it. Human, real, authentic, and to the point. Okay, good. I like this. Let's see what else we got here. Lots of questions. I love all the questions. Hey, Divya, good to see you back again. How do I handle investor due diligence for my first check? And what are the red flags for them? Well, when you don't have a data room, it does suggest to them that there are slightly bigger problems. When you have a cap table, which is out of sync, that suggests that you have bigger problems. And what do I mean by out of sync? You might have an investor with 50% of your cap table that says that nobody in the company has any idea about how venture investing works, right? It could be that the founder at seed is already down at like 25, 30%. It suggests exactly the same thing. Yeah, lots of things there, really. Just your deck could be spelling mistakes on your deck. It could be something as silly as that. You don't have bank statements in your data room. I'm always a huge fan of putting bank statements in the data room because you've got nothing to hide. You want to show people where you're spending your money, and not having any accounts for your company at all. Are that your accounts are a mess? Are that your sister did your accounts? Like all of those things. Like, think of it like this. If you go to a bank and you're buying a house and you're asking for a mortgage, the bank wants to see a very professional, every single aspect of that house already in place. The house has got to be there. The deeds have got to be there. The title has got to be there. Everything's got to be in place. So have a nice data room, put resumes in the data room, put things that you've achieved in the past in the data room, put areas that are reinforcing your thesis in the data room, put your bank statements in the data room, put your accounts in the data room, put your deck in the data room. If you have a business plan, which I always like business plans, put your business plan in the data room as well. You know, put your future projections in the data room as well. All of those things, all of those things are about how you handle the due diligence at the beginning. But I would say more than anything, be very, very, very transparent, right? Remember, as you're getting investment from any investors, you want them to feel that you're going to tell them the truth. We know that stuff's going to go wrong. We know this. But what we don't know is, like, do you have the chops to be able to actually make it go, to tell us the truth when it is going wrong? Okay. If you have a follow-up there, please feel free to throw it in. Okay. Pranav. Cool. Yeah. Want to explore venture industry? Well, thank you. Thank you. We do venture capital. We do a lot of venture capital. Okay. Let's see what you got. Okay. A little bit more in there for you, Pranav. Been following what building at the dojo. Love the mission. Thank you. Love to explore how I can be started with the dojo. You know what? Look, even in calls like this, where most of the call is about, you know, how do you get your first check? How do you raise money? What do you do? This is a very good example about how there are some people who seize opportunities, and there are other people who just want to be, you know, viewers of the journey. And so if you're an early stage startup, you have to seize every opportunity. So, like, I don't know about me so much, but like, let's say, you know, the Steve Jobs of your industry was doing a talk about a specific thing, and there was a very highly intellectual talk about that. Like, is it a bad thing that your question is specifically to say, yo, Steve Jobs of my industry, please talk to me. I've just sat here for 20 minutes listening to you rabbit on about a bunch of different types of things, but I would really love to build a relationship because of this. No, it's a great thing. You got to steal what you can steal. You got to take what you can take. So I like that. And so Pranav, Ash at Expert Dojo is our guy. I'm in and out of India. I'm actually going over to India this weekend, and I'm going to do a TEDx talk in India, which is all going to be about. And I mentioned it before, how if India continues to follow America in building unicorns, then it will destroy India from the outside. From the inside, actually, more than from the outside, because what we do over here is very much a zero-sum game, right? For me to win, everybody has to lose. That's the model that we've ended up adopting over here. And the companies that have come from that model, unfortunately, have expanded that philosophy to a level where we're all enslaved now by the top 5 or 6 companies. So India does not want that. So I'm going to go over there. And because going back to the very first question, I don't know that your deck is the place to have your story, but you have to have your story somewhere. And so our story in Expert Dojo is that India, I'm just talking about India now. I could do a story for lots of other places or people or anything else, but this is just for context. So India is one of the most incredible places in the world where every single thing in India is interconnected. And anything that you do will come back at you, not just for this lifetime, but for many lifetimes in the future. And so if that's the case, you want to be highly aware of that and make sure that you're okay. Okay, cool. What else do we have? More questions. And I want to bring in, I want to do something here. So make sure that I have everybody covered. Here we go. I see there's a little bit of lag here, and I don't want that to happen. I want to make sure that you're okay. Hopefully I'm back. Okay, good stuff. Am I back? I'm back. Good. I like it. I'm going to. Okay. Did something happen with the connection inside? Did something happen with the connection inside? No, the connection has gone down. Okay. Raj, did you jump on the you need to get off that, please, if you don't. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, sorry about that. We had a little bit of an internet connection glitch. Okay, cool. Let me get back in and start answering some of the questions that we have here again, right? So, should I raise a safe convertible note or equity? Early stages, always raise a safe note, not, or actually, India is more convertible. It depends where you are in the world, right? So, look, safes and convertible notes are kind of the same thing, right? They're both debt. On equity, it's a much more complicated process. So normally speaking, we'll say raise equity afterwards, and raise a safe or a convertible note earlier on, only because it's less expensive and it's easier to do. That does vary depending on where you go to, because people will do it. So I just say, look, follow whatever's happening in your local area, but always keep it as simple as you possibly can. At the beginning, generally speaking, safe notes are simple. If somebody here is listening from the UK, they're going to say, but everybody does equity in the UK. I would argue that that's because everybody is silly in the UK. It's obviously of no value, or the UK or Ireland or Europe or wherever else. Like, it's of no value spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars having an equity ownership in something that has a limited chance of being able to break through, right? That's why safe notes are very, very good, especially if you have multiple safe notes. And imagine if you're a founder and you have multiple equity rounds that you're doing for 25 and 50K, you're going to have all kinds of problems there as well. Bum, 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 bum. So I like that. Okay, good job. Okay, safe notes, we've got that. Also, nice question there from Aditi. Can AI agents tools now replace the need for a technical co-founder? I would say no. I think the beautiful thing about a technical co-founder is that's a guide. It's like a Sherpa up Mount Everest. There's tons of people who can follow a Sherpa, but your Sherpa is your Sherpa. And the genius that is still inside some of the greatest architects of artificial intelligence in the world are still human. I hate to break it to you. We're not at that stage yet where, for me, an early stage co-founder building out a product that is not yet being invented yet, can be replaced by AI. Okay. But can you have AI to supplement and help your co-founder? Absolutely, yes. But I think it's very difficult. I'm a non-technical co-founder. I'm a founder, actually, but I'm non-technical. And what's the problem with that? It's that whenever we're looking to build that incredible technology, it's extremely difficult for me. And even for me to be able to guide the AI what to do, I can't do that. I need somebody brilliant to be able to do it, which is why you always want to gap the skills that you have, or fill the gaps for the skills you have. If logistics is not your thing, you got to have somebody helping you with logistics. If sales and marketing is not your thing, you got to have somebody helping you with sales and marketing. And if technology is not your thing, the same thing applies. And by the way, investors really, really, really want to see that. For them, it's like it's a really important thing to make sure that you have in place. Now, okay, good. So, in summary, for everything that we've gone through here, you have an incredible opportunity to be able to get to investors like you've never had before. Never. We're in like a time of more millionaires, more billionaires than we've ever had before. We're in a time where there's more knowledge of early stage startup than there's ever been before. Like, this is that time. And so because of that, you have a better opportunity to outreach and be able to engage with investors and close investments than you've ever had before. What's the problem? That all of the awesome things here are countered by the fact that we have never been busier than we are right now. And that means that people don't have time to do the fundamental relationship building that will actually bring those investors in. There's so many investors out there for you, but you have to get your name out, and you have to make sure that they know you, and you have to follow up. So here's how you do it. At the beginning, you're going to build up a profile which is going to outsize yourself. That means you're going to be on podcasts. That means you're going to apply to speak on stages of conferences. It means you're going to build epic events. You're going to create your own communities. You're going to write your own books. Whatever it is that gives you that edge, you're going to do it so that people know who you are. Number two, you're going to follow that whole tree mentality where you have the roots, which are strong into the ground. You then have the branch, which is the systems that will allow you to outreach. And then you have the branches, which are the individual outreach by you managing it through a great CRM system, the roots of the investors through the system of the trunk, all the way through the branches on the outside. You will maintain that relationship outreach with all of those investors to make sure that you're good. And then you follow that on by following that on. And if you do that, if you maintain those relationships and you keep the outreach you were doing at the beginning, which follows through to the piece at the end where you're following up, you will get investors. It's impossible not to get investors. I don't care about your product. If your product is terrible, then you have to reach out to 20,000 investors, 200,000 investors, 2 million investors. If your product is badass and you have a team that are proven, then you have to reach out to 2 investors. But all of them will be based on the size of the forest that you need to be able to create the world you want to create. That's all I got for you today, my friends. You know what to do. Oh, hang on a second. Let me add one more in. I'm going to finish with Sahil, right? What should I do in my first pitch deck? What are the must-haves? Slide 2 is what you have, which is so extra special that nobody else has in the entire world, that's going to guarantee that investor that they're making the right decision. If your growth is going through the roof, show that your growth is going through the roof. Remember, a venture-backable startup is a company growing at 200% growth every single year. You can do 100 one year and 300 the next year, or you can even do 100 and then 200, but you need to be on that type of trajectory. If you can show an investor that because of your team being the greatest in the world, because of your growth being the greatest in the world, because of your product being the greatest in the world, because of your customers loving you more than any other product in the world, you are going to be on trajectory for that 200%. That's your slide 2. And don't bore people with a ton of stuff in the middle about all of your features on all of your deck. Nobody cares. Afterwards, there's loads of time to go through that. Your deck is a 3 to 5 minute instrument to convince people that they should have a longer conversation with you. It is not a 7-course dinner, okay? 3 to 5 minutes. Even if you're an hour discussing this first meeting, the deck is 3 to 5 minutes. You are just showing them that you are worth them giving you more time, okay? And also, last slide on the deck should be the most important things about your company. It should not be your name, your email address, and your phone number. It's a waste. That slide sits there for longer than any other slide on the deck. Okay. We'll keep digging into this stuff as we go through. Go out there, build a unicorn, raise money, and keep feeding back to me during these calls how well you're doing on it all. But otherwise, love having you here, love feeding back to you. Actually, I'll answer one more question. Keep coming in with one more. This is the last one though, right? What traction or milestones should I hit before my first check? Anything, it's okay. It's okay. Like, it's all about, when am I ready for love? Like, technically, maybe it's at the age of 25, when you have a little bit of money to be able to buy a house, when you have a little bit of money to be able to take care of your kids and everything. But at the end of the day, the best time to raise a check is today. And that's from me. Okay. Fuck.